Hey there! I'm so glad you're still with me here. Today we're going to be talking about something that's near and dear to my heart. For those of you who don't know me, I am Chia Fowley, a pediatric anesthesiologist who loves to chat real estate. And today I'm going to be talking about one question that I get asked quite a bit, okay? Both at work with the residents that I talk to and on the different Facebook groups that I find myself hanging out every now and then. And that is, they're either in residency or they're about to get into residency, and it's like, should I buy or should I rent? Okay, that's a really good question. If that question is on your mind, congratulations, because you are definitely in the right mind space. Now, the question about buying or renting, this may be pretty obvious to you, but the question about buying or renting is highly dependent on a couple of things, okay? Number one is what your goals are. Now, I'm sure if I ask you, you tell me, well, of course, I want to be financially independent. Yes, we know that. But how do we break that down? What exactly is your strategy, okay? Is your strategy to just, buy something that you can just start paying down and not be paying off someone else's mortgage? Or are you actually looking to use the money from the properties as a way to, as cash flow to actually like support your existence, support your living through the 60K a year, if even, that you get paid as a resident. All right. Now, if your goals is just to build equity and not pay someone else's mortgage, then obviously you need to be looking at actually that should really be everybody's goals. Then it's a very different scenario. But the way that I teach people is whatever you're buying should have a potential for cash flow. Okay? Whatever you're buying, even as a resident, whatever you're buying should have a potential for cash flow. Because during residency, particularly if you're buying at the beginning, then you have a finite amount of time to be a resident, right? So it's like 2, 3 not 2, 3 years. It's probably three to 4 years if you're in most residencies, or if you're in neurosurgery or something else, then you could go as high as 7 years. Okay. Now the very first question that you ought to ask yourself is, where am I? Where am I going for all of this? And by where am I mean, what city is it? What are the home values there? How quickly have home values either risen or fallen in the past couple of years? In other words, is it a place where home values do this? With every rise, they rise. With every crash, they crash. Or is it kind of a more stable place? And you can see this by simply going on Zillow, picking any property, and just looking at the home value trend for the past maybe 10, 15 years. All right. You want to know what houses go for in the area, obviously, because you need a budget, right? But you also want to know what the taxes are like. Is this a place where taxes are really high? Or is this a place where taxes are, moderate? Like, for example, Brooklyn, New York is a pretty expensive city, but the taxes are not as high as, comparatively speaking, say Syracuse, New York. So in Syracuse, New York, for example, the home values are fairly lower, much lower actually, but then they make up for it in taxes. And the reason that I mention taxes is that when you're running your numbers, you're going to need to know that, okay? So you're not just thinking, oh my gosh, things are cheap here, and you forget all the numbers that go into actually owning the property. And then the third question that you ask yourself about where am I is, what are the rents in this area? So for example, if you pick a neighborhood in the city where you're going to live, or in the place that you're looking, that you think you may be buying a property in, you can go on a website called rentometer.com and go see what the rents look like in that area. And it's going to be important in the next couple of minutes when I tell you exactly what to do with those numbers. All right. And then the next question, the next major question after where am I, is what am I comfortable with, right? And by that I mean, are you okay sharing a room in your house with someone? So is there a possibility of potentially sharing the expense of owning that home with someone else? All right. Number two, are there properties in the area that I'm looking at that have, say, 2 units on the property, like multifamily properties? Okay, some places have, one building that'll have two separate apartments, or up to four separate apartments that you can still buy as a resident, like as a residential, owner, right? So am I comfortable with having somebody live in the next unit when I live in one, which I don't see why not, but oh well, because they're in a separate unit. And then the third question under this subsection is how comfortable am I with repairs? Now, I am not handy at all. I can do a lot of things with my hand, but it is not home construction. Okay, so the question is, if you're not a handy person, are you okay with having someone else come do the work in the home if necessary? All right. After those questions, you now ask yourself what resources are available in this area. Now, if you're in the middle of nowhere and there's not a lot of real estate investing activity going on, there may not be property managers. Now, having been through residency myself and fellowship, I know that there are times in residency when the last thing you want on your mind is for somebody to be calling you and telling you that, the bathroom is leaking or something like that. You don't want to deal with that. So personally, I don't even manage my properties myself as of yet. I work with property managers, so you can look and see, are there property managers in the area that if I wanted to, I could hand off the management of this property to them down the line. Okay. Now, after you have asked yourself these questions, you then put it all together and ask yourself and decide on if it'll be a profitable venture. Okay, because the whole point is profit. So you have to weigh the pros and the cons. When I say run the numbers, you want to decide on if you have a profit, or you want to calculate to see if you have a profit if you had to offload the property. Okay. The first number you want to know is what houses are selling for, what the kind of houses that they're looking to buy are selling for, and how quickly they sell. Why that's important is that on the selling end of things, if after the 3 years of residency, you got 3 or 4 years of residency, you got into a program that was outside of this city that you're now in, the question you want to know answer is how quickly will you be able to sell that house? You can talk to a realtor and ask them, how long the properties sit on the market here before they're sold. It could be anywhere from days to 5 months. And if it is 5 months, then you want to know, you want to be sure that, if it's 5 months, that's a lot of time because, hey, the match is usually for med school, the match is in March? For fellowship, the match is sometime in October. Okay, so I guess that will give you some time. But you want to make sure that you can plan, that you have ample time to plan your exit when that time comes. Okay, and then and that's to keep you from having to have 2 mortgages or have 2 payments down the line. And then the next thing is you want to run the numbers as a rental. So if for any reason you don't sell, you're not able to sell, and you have to hold that property as a rental, question is it going to cash flow? And how do you do this? Well, you take the rent that you got from rentometer.com, and then you subtract all the expenses that will go into running a house, okay, or running a rental property. Let's start with vacancies. Vacancies, you can put in anywhere from 5 to 10% of the original rent. So you take vacancies, and you put in those taxes. So you can look up your taxes under the property assessment website of the city. Insurance, you have to call insurance company and find out what insurance costs. Maintenance, so all the lawn mowing that you have to do, the snow removal if you're in a snowy place like in Syracuse. Management, if you have to up and leave the property as a rental, which can be a good thing in some cases, you may want to have a property manager. Okay, so you want to have an idea of what property management will cost, and that will be somewhere around, depending on where you are, it can be anywhere from 6 to 12%. Where I am, it's 10%. Nice. Utilities. You can look and see, okay, you can ask people, what do utilities tend to run in this area? Like, heating, water, all of that. If you want to use it as a student rental or, as a room, renting by the room, then you want to make sure that you factor in the cost of things like Wi-Fi and, things that people or students will expect to have on the property. Repairs, if the property needs work, you want to allocate some amount to your repairs. So you can say $50 a month, $100 a month, depending on what state the property is in. So now you see that I've given you a nice list that tells you that you can't just say, oh, if I bought a house in this area, I'll be paying the same as my mortgage. As you can see, so far I haven't even mentioned the mortgage, right? So there's a lot that goes into actually owning a house that you can't look at all these numbers and say, you know what? Having just renting the property may end up being a wiser proposition if this is not a place I can invest anyway, right? So after you do your taxes, insurance, maintenance, management, utilities, repairs, then you subtract your mortgage and see if you have any cash at the end of the day. So to kind of summarize all of this, if you're thinking of renting versus buying, you want to ask yourself what the exit strategy is, right? If it's a place where you would have been willing to buy investment property, in other words, the numbers work as an investment property or as a rental property, then yes, it is worth your buying. If it is a place where it doesn't cash flow as a rental, investors, I mean, the people who normally buy in that area are mostly homeowners. They don't really, buy to rent, then it may not necessarily be you may not be losing much in terms of renting versus buying if you simply rent. Okay, don't just take the blanket thing that realtors would tell you that, oh, why not just buy? Why not just buy and build equity? No, if you're in a place where the taxes are high, what you're paying in taxes may be what you'd have paid for rent. Okay, so yeah. Anyway, hopefully this has given you a nice framework to use that you can use to think about that question of should I rent or should I buy? The answer may be to buy, but you want to make sure that the numbers make sense. All right, guys. Hope you find this useful. If you did, you know what to do. Hit like, share, and subscribe if you're watching this on my YouTube channel. If you're not, well, head over to my YouTube channel and then go like, share, and subscribe. All right, love you guys. Have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful time. Bye-bye.